Am I? Underground?
That barrier almost looks like the Veil.
It must be the one Lucia wrote about in her notes.
And the panel looks like our scry. Anyone know what it is?
No idea.
Similar design to a scry, but it looks like it's a permanent installation. Like it interfaces with the room. Could this be the harness?
Must be. It seems like Asylum involved sealing away whatever's beyond this barrier.
With this discovery and everything else you found, I should be able to piece together what Asylum actually was.
I know we need to discuss the barrier and its potential ties to the flood. But want to give me a rundown of the research first?
Of course. Years after the surge, there was an inexplicable spike in casualties.
You don't think it's due to the arcs going hostile?
Well, that may be part of it, but we can't be certain due to the information blackout. All we know is that it nearly wiped the Hearthsiders out. What seems to have saved them was Asylum's execution, a defensive measure that involved sealing the underground behind a magical barrier.
Almost like the Veil.
Exactly like the Veil.
So the Enclave didn't just hide information from the rest of the Mater, but their own people as well.
Judging from the secrecy and a few of the letters you found, I would guess that high-level officials were paranoid. Clearly, not everyone was in favor of this measure, and some might have wished to thwart it.
People like Lucia.
And a dissenting group known as the Verdant Minds that she had ties to. Though it's entirely unclear what those ties were.
You said the casualties spiked long after the surge. Can you elaborate on what might have caused this?
This is truly the thousand-fairer question. With the information blackout, I can't find a concrete link to the cause across hundreds of pages. Arc hostility could certainly be a factor. Clearly, numerous Weavers were killed by their own defenses. The recorded minutes from other meetings in the War Room illustrate a long period of geological instability following the surge as well. Aftershocks and earthquakes and Well, not to mention the outskirts grew more dangerous each year as the creatures were allowed to breed unculled. But these threats seemed to plateau in the early years after the surge. There is no mention of the spike that resurfaced and prompted Asylum.
That's so strange.
It is.
Khan Stanild gave the orders to execute Asylum. Do we know anything else about him?
Judging from the series of letters between him and the commander, it would seem that, at the time, he was recently elected. And judging from the frequency with which he followed up on the commander's progress with Asylum, this defensive measure was a key pillar in his political platform. He seemed to grow increasingly concerned with his popularity among civilians in the most recent letters.
Ugh, isn't that kind of slimy?
Leveraging a security crisis to consolidate political influence? Yes, it's incredibly slimy and effective.
And the commander? Do we know what happened to him?
It would appear that Asylum was executed successfully, so perhaps he is still alive. But until we find the Hearthsiders, we can't know for sure.
It's got to be where the Hearthsiders went, right? Remember, the letter mentioned they were evacuated from the city.
To an undisclosed location. We have no real confirmation that they are down there.
But it would make sense, wouldn't it? After all, asylum can mean shelter or safekeeping.
It can also mean prison. I know everyone wants an easy answer to where they went, but something just doesn't add up. You would think there would be at least one document linking Asylum to the evacuation of the city, and there simply isn't.
So, back to the barrier. Think it's the one Lucia was trying to take down?
Yes, the very same. She was right, too. It's causing the miasma floods. The raw magic that off-gasses from the Veil is what causes the tangles to cluster at its base. In speaking with Dharm, we theorized that this second barrier could potentially be doing the same thing. Except in a more pressurized environment, like, say, within a barrier of kinetic magic.
We don't get small pockets of raw magic like tangles. We get floods of it.
Precisely.
So we need to remove Asylum's barrier to stop the flood. Now we really need to talk to the others.
Agreed.
All right. Let's go over everything we know so far.
We know that, for a time after the surge, civilians continued to live in Tenebron until they were forced to evacuate the city. We're still not sure the cause.
Wherever the Hearthsiders went, they're still actively sending scouting groups to scavenge for supplies. From the uniform, the creeper who was watching Bryn sleep belongs to one of these groups.
We also know that a defensive procedure codenamed Asylum sealed access to the Enclave underground. This was done using a barrier almost exactly like the Veil.
Lucia, an ex-High Enchantress, opposed Asylum and began working on ways to sabotage it.
Her research forecasted that the barrier would cause the Enclave to flood with miasma. The very same flood that seems to have killed Lucia before she was able to finish her thimble.
But we have her design. It could disrupt Asylum's barrier.
So Lucia's thimble is the key to our survival.
It's less a key and more like a magical battering ram.
Whatever works.
What is it, Lane?
It's just... I've pored over all the documents we've compiled, and a concrete link between the evacuation plan and the underground is nowhere to be found. I can't shake the feeling we're missing something.
The Enclave destroyed a lot of information from their documents. Could that be why you can't find a link between Asylum and the evacuation?
I considered that. The Enclave may have hidden their location from Lucia.
Being a Weaver isn't about being certain all the time. It's about taking calculated risks to carve a path forward. And regardless of the Hearthsider's location, disrupting the barrier is the only option to stop the flood.
You're right. I just hope that if we did miss something, it doesn't come back to bite us.
Even if it does, we will handle it.
That settles it. Bryn, it's time to use the thimble.
Thank you for your help with that, Bryn. You've a deft hand for flame magic. You can wear Sev's apprentice hat for one day. Also, Lucia knew what she was doing. This thimble was clearly designed to pair seamlessly with Enclave constructions.
Must be her experience as a high enchantress at work.
Based on Lucia's notes and what we discovered at the Bastion, this was custom designed to disrupt Asylum's barrier.
If it can stop the flood, we need to use it soon.
Agreed. We don't know how much time we have left. That console that looks like our scry should be the controls for the barrier. The thimble was built to interface with it.
Time to disrupt Asylum. Great timing. I owe you one.
You need to come with me. All of you.
We mustn't cause a panic.
Sure. It's not like we had a dire supplies shortage on our hands before this happened.
What do I tell the High Enchanter? The Guild will want...
Enough. We won't discuss this further. Not in front of our guests. Identify yourselves.
Aurea Harpene, or Silverbeak, as I'm known among Weaver circles. This is my band, and beside me is our acting point.
Bryn. And you are?
Khan Stunild, Eye of the Enclave. My colleagues are the Spindle and the Axle, representatives of the Enchanting and Crafting Guilds. Who sent you?
Sent us?
Tarza? Renland? Udea? The Enclave is the envy of the Maida for its magical prowess. Clearly one of those nations has finally grown a spine and decided to take it for themselves in our moment of weakness.
Moment.
No one sent us. We came here by accident.
What kind of fool do you take me for? You expect me to believe that you bypassed our veil, infiltrated our loom gates, and breached Asylum without a national power backing you?
When you put it that way.
This is a misunderstanding. We're Weavers, like you. There was a brief opportunity to enter the Enclave for the first time in decades, and we took it. Everything we've done since we arrived has been to uncover what happened here after the Surge, and to find you.
If that is true, have you really no inkling of the trouble you've caused?
No.
Your reckless conduct has unleashed an enemy that nearly destroyed us 27 years ago.
The Surgeborn. They first appeared a little over a decade after the Veil went up.
Where did they come from?
No one knows. But they arrived in the Underworks before making their way to the surface.
Where they left a trail of destruction in their wake and wreaked havoc on the Enclave.
Causing casualties to rise.
And so I called for a retreat here, saving countless lives. We sealed the Surgeborn in the Underworks for good. Until now.
Hey, we can put the Surgeborn back where we found them. What goes out must go in, right?
That is not precisely a fundamental law of nature.
Your actions are irreversible. We no longer have a method to contain the Surgeborn.
You didn't have a contingency plan?
Asylum was the contingency.
Look, Surgeborn or not, we had no choice but to remove the barrier. Though, I suppose we owe you thanks for warning us about the floods.
Who warned you?
You did.
Did we? I'll deal with you later.
While we can agree Arakim breached no-contact protocol, it has proven to be the right decision. The floods were growing worse, and now they have stopped. Even if fixing them has introduced a new problem.
One my band would be more than happy to help you solve.
Ha! Work together!
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned your last name earlier. Any relation to Shireen Harpene?
She was my mother. You know who she is?
Of course! I mean, before my time, obviously. But she's still renowned in the Enchanting Guild. Her work is remarkable. There's a statue of her in Denevron, you know?
Oh. I can't believe she didn't mention that.
There is so much I'd love to ask you, but for now, Aurea comes from a long bloodline of outstanding and renowned weavers. Shouldn't that buy her band some grace?
All right.
What about the Surgeborn?
What about them?
Shouldn't we work together to deal with them?
We could use the help.
The Surgeborn are a problem for anyone in the outskirts, not us. Cassidan's hold is a fortress.
The scouts do head into the outskirts to scavenge for supplies.
We'll take our own precautions. Speaking of, we have pressing matters to attend to.
But
Enough! My word is final.
Bryn, the one that led us here is clearly the one that warned us. Try to talk to him before we leave. Maybe he's willing to work with us.
Will do. Hey, Arakim, was it?
oh, just call me Eric.
Well, Eric, I never got a chance to thank you. You know, for grabbing me before I fell to my death.
I think you had it. Besides, I couldn't let you plummet into a chasm. The Eye is pretty peeved with me, but hey, that's just a bonus.
You and the Eye don't seem to get along very well.
What gave it away? The mutual contempt. The Eye doesn't like anyone who shows initiative or challenges him. Unfortunately, those are my main qualities. And I suspect he perceives them in you, too.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression he's my biggest fan. Will you be in trouble for saving us?
I'd worry if he ever decided to get off his throne and do something about it. But he finds that throne very comfortable.
So, are you glad we're here?
I'm thrilled you're here.
I have to say, I'm surprised.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all that cloak and dagger stuff earlier. Khan Stanild had me on strict orders not to make contact with your Weaver band. But it was the right call. From what I just saw, your presence here is having an impact.
How so?
Notice how the Axle took my side against the Eye earlier. That never happens. And the Spindle is as quiet as a mouse most of the time, but not today.
Uh-huh. So these are big changes.
It might not sound like much, but they're excited you're here. Stanild can tell too. That's why he backed down so easily. And that's why I'm glad you're here.
So you're not upset that I breached Asylum, like your colleagues?
I've been pushing to do something about the Surgeborn for years now. Setting them free wasn't great, but sealing them in the underworks indefinitely was never a good solution. Frankly, I think Khan Stanild is just annoyed you undid his one claim to fame. I guarantee he has no plans to do anything about the Surgeborn now that they're free.
You don't think he sees them as a threat?
He's got his head in the sand about a lot of things.
You seem awfully trusting of us, considering the terrible first impression we've made.
Well, I was spying on you the first time we met, so let's call it even.
Sure. Maybe you know everything already then, but have you got any questions for me?
Just one. Why are you here?
Decades of war across the Maida followed after the Surge. Magic and Weavers were blamed for all of it. Without the Enclave as a stabilizing force, it's as if the world outside has splintered into factions, divided by chaos and fear. Not to mention the lands surrounding the Veil are completely shrouded in tangles. I'm here to bring down the Veil, and play a small part in restoring the Maida Basin to what it was before the Surge.
Wow. That's a big picture vision if I ever heard one. If that's truly what you want, then dealing with the Surgeborn is the first step. Ever since the Veil went up, our people have been in crisis. They've spent so long in it, they're afraid to do what it takes to get out. It doesn't help that some have benefited off that same crisis.
Who?
Who always benefits? The very top. Our leaders are too preoccupied with their own concerns to form a unified front against the Surgeborn.
Such as?
The Spindle is obsessed with getting the Arcs functional again. She believes that will help us regain control. And the Axle is too stressed about our supply shortage right now. But, if their concerns were handled, they could pressure the Eye to finally address the Surgeborn.
That sounds like an opportunity. And are you a representative yourself? Do you have sway?
Representative, yes. Sway? No. I represent the Scouts, meaning I'm at the meetings, but I don't have the title to back me up. The Scouts were once points like you, but our role has changed since the Veil went up. We were effectively drafted into scavenging for food and supplies. It made sense following the Surge, but it's been years. Recently, we've even been separated from Cassidon's hold and the remaining civilians. Anyway, it's the guild leaders who will need to pressure Khan Stanild into dealing with the Surgeborn, which is what needs to happen before we can even think about tackling the Veil.
Sounds like I've got some palms to grease.
Yuck. But yes. I'll come by your camp later. We'll be able to speak more freely there.
What is that about?
The Eye isn't one for idle chit-chat. That's worth watching.
Talk to you back at our camp.
You got it.
Sev, you all right?
No. I mean, yes. I'm fine.
You sure?
Rin, the rest of us are heading out. See you back at camp.
I got to go.
So, you.
Me?
The one causing trouble. The one poking into corners. The one who hasn't the good sense to leave well enough alone.
Had you allowed Arakim to reach out to us sooner, this could have been avoided.
Arakim has a proven record of poor judgment on matters of protocol. I will not be lectured by the person who put us all at risk on how best to handle our security. But I'm being impolite. Let us start afresh, shall we? Please, share what you hope to accomplish by loitering around the hold.
Before we met, it was clear from my exploration of Denevron that you have sourcing issues. Your lack of production capacity was obvious. We can help with your shortages.
A caravan of 7 is going to supply a fortress of thousands. What's next? You'll turn water into Sansa mead? Though you are correct, sourcing has been a consistent problem since even before we abandoned the capital. We have hundreds of trained scouts, but wooden swords and paper shields are hardly going to mount an offensive. So despite certain assertions that we must do something, we lack the tools with which to make any great strides.
Like it or not, I'm here to help.
The Enclave stands on a blade's edge. Stretch our resources too thin on risky ventures and we face collapse. Certain elements of our population call for action, for bold purpose. And I ask you, what purpose is bolder than survival?
Well,
Purely rhetorical. We must survive, and we must make considered, careful moves if we are to do so. There is no sacrifice too great towards that goal. You, at least, understand the precarity of our situation. Now understand the necessity of our caution.
I do, but...
Thank you for your time. You may go.
But...
You may go.
Let's talk in your camp.
Before Asylum, all the loom gates were reset so that the Surgeborn couldn't use them to continue spreading. How did you reconnect to the city?
We tracked down a key swatch to Denevron. Found it in the mayor's home in Poldervale.
Your band is quite resourceful.
Dam loves discussing magical theory. He would be thrilled to speak with the Enclave's leading enchantress.
That is tempting. But no offense, but I should really get back to work.
Excuse me, but Arakim mentioned you're the Spindle, a leading representative for the High Arcanists.
Oh, yes, that's correct.
We wanted to formally introduce ourselves. I'm Aurea, as you know. This is Dam, our enchanter, and Bryn, our acting point.
We didn't catch your name earlier. Khan?
Just call me Isla. Is there something I can help you with?
We'd actually like to help you. Apparently you want to restore the arcs.
Shh! Not so loud. Sorry, that sounds wonderful, but the Eye won't be happy about us collaborating.
Come on. You must know better than anyone how integral the arcs are to the Enclave. Why let the Eye's political games stand in the way?
I do know that, I mean, and I don't... I do want to fix the arcs, more than anything. I just need you to be quiet about it.
Okay. We'll try, but forgive us if our excitement bubbles over and we forget.
It's Dam. He's the one that might forget.
We know that the arcs began malfunctioning after the surge. A select few were even sabotaged. Any idea on what caused the other malfunctions?
Some theories, but nothing solid. Anyone who knew how to create arcs, let alone fix them, died before I was born. I've tinkered with an inactive arc that's lying near the Grand Gate, but it would make a world of difference if I could study a resonance that was freshly harvested from a great arc's pattern.
Consider it done.
Bryn's got you covered. She has a knack for harvesting great archons.
You'll have it in no time.
If you're sure, I certainly would appreciate it. With discretion, of course.
Right.
We've been talking a while. You'd better go.
All this wreckage scattered throughout the room. Why haven't you guys cleaned it up?
Khan Stanild ordered us not to.
And that's because he wants to keep it messy?
Correct. Speaking frankly,
My impression is that he wanted any visitors to feel as if we were still in a major state of crisis. Though visitors are few and far between. Upper government officials only, all of whom are working from offices with roofs. We are the lucky few over here, it seems. What a privilege it is to work in a building that is open to the weather. I understand the motivation of wanting to wait until we'd found everyone a place to live, but we achieved that 20 years ago. Thousands of survivors rehomed. And yet, I still have to step over puddles to get to my desk.
I am simply telling you, as the foremost leader of the Enclave, that I don't want you getting distracted.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
You focus on your own problems. Organize your little craftspeople. Keep the wheels of civilized society greased. And don't dare to presume you know better than me.
If you have a problem with my performance, you are welcome to gather feedback from the people who elected me. They may have a clearer understanding of what I bring to the table.
We'll continue this conversation later.
Khan Arteme. Allow me to formally introduce you to Bryn, the Weaver Band's point.
You're the Axel, right? Arakim says you're a good person to know.
I am. My given name is Harun, as Arakim said, but you may refer to me as Khan Arteme. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance, despite the circumstances. And I wish they were better circumstances. The new Surgeborn threat requires us to realign our priorities. Some are a little slower on that than others.
If there's anything we can do to move things along, I'm at your disposal.
What about the supply shortage? I've seen her in combat. She's better than any of us.
What's her help look like? I'd prefer if she could avoid unleashing another apocalypse on us.
We didn't bring a lot with us, but if there's anything we can provide to you, our Courtmaster, Kasmin, will be happy to help. A decade working the maiden shipping lanes turned her hard as Khan steel.
She sounds lovely. But unfortunately, we're supplying 10,000 people, not 7 weavers and their pack beast. And I doubt you'd have enough on your caravan to make much of a difference. Fortunately, there's a silver lining to your Surgeborn mess that could solve the problem.
Count me in.
Right. With the Surgeborn unleashed, we're anticipating casualties and damage to our facilities. However, there's a restricted area in the underworks that we lost access to decades ago when the Eye sealed it. The Institute. An arcane laboratory where the Enclave conducted its enchantment research, among other projects. Inside the Institute lies a significant supply cache. Its contents will be enough to keep us going, for the time being. If the notes the previous Axel left me are accurate, though, there's an additional complication.
Of course.
The Surgeborn secure territory by building structures, akin to insect hives. The Institute is likely overrun with them, and has been for 20-odd years.
So, the Surgeborn are a long-standing threat to the Enclave.
I wish I were old enough to remember what it was like to live without the fear of the Surgeborn. As a child, I sat awake every night worrying about them. They were terrifying. Knowing what I know now, I should have been even more scared.
I'm sorry you went through that. It must have been horrible.
Thank you.
All the more reason to actually do something about the problem, instead of spending our lives cowering behind the walls of our glorious fortress.
You'll hear no disagreement from me, now that the game board has been upended.
Sounds like I need to clear any Surgeborn hives from the Institute, then.
That'll thin them out enough that my scouts will be able to access the supply cache without much trouble.
Now that Asylum is lifted, we should be able to access the loom gates in the Institute again. I'm going to trust you with this key swatch. It's been gathering dust for over 25 years.
Only the Eye would let such a crucial resource sit there for that long.
Yes. If we're clear on everything, I'll get back to work. My list of obligations grows by the minute. Someone has to keep this goddamn fortress running.
So, Warrior, what do you make of the Enclave Council?
Their living history. What they've seen, what knowledge they must have preserved. All this time, they've been here, holding down the fort. It's great you've offered to help the Axle and the Spindle. Just be careful you're not going over the Eye's head.
Honestly, I've seen his type before, and I don't trust him. He's slippery. We need to respect the leader of the territory we're in, Bryn. He's led the Enclave during a crisis. The rules change. He knows more about the Surge, the Enclave, and arguably even magic. Because while we've been outcasts, he's been here, at the heart of our culture. It's something we need to respect. I'll try.
Good.
Hey, you all right?
Yes. There's something I should have told you, so I'll just come out and say it. I was born in the Enclave.
How is that possible?
Oh, luck or tragedy, depending on your perspective. Before I was born, my mother and father lived here happily for several years. But they decided it would be better if my mother raised me with my grandmother and great aunts for the first few months of my life. So she left with me when I was just a hatchling, with every intention to return.
But the Surge happened.
The life I should have had was lost for good. Because of all this, I never knew my father. I don't even know his name.
Is it common for Oberon hatchlings to be raised apart from their fathers?
No, but it is common for extended family to be involved in the raising of children. As you know, I come from a long line of weavers, many of whom traveled in caravans their entire lives. It was apparently quite a shock when my mother fell for a Hearthsider.
So your parents were looking for a compromise when it came to raising you?
Exactly. And I wouldn't trade my childhood on the road. My great-aunts and my grandmother made me who I am, after all.
Still, you missed out on your father. It's natural to wonder about him.
I suppose.
Isn't it a little strange your mother never told you his name?
She was separated from him so suddenly. She had no chance to say goodbye. My mother's a strong woman, but whenever I asked about him as a child, she could only manage a few words before her face would crumble. She found it too painful to discuss, and I never wanted to pry.
But now?
I can't help but wish I knew who he was.
Does your family have something to do with your attachment to the Enclave?
Being here has meant a lot in some ways, and in others, it's very different from what I expected. Meeting the Hearthsiders was a lifelong dream, but the circumstances of our encounter, not what I'd envisioned.
Knowing now that this is your birthplace, I can see why that would be disheartening.
This was meant to be my home, after all.
This is definitely a twist. I feel like you could have told me sooner.
I am sorry for that. You need to be able to trust me.
So why hide it?
Talking about difficult and private matters is not my strong suit. And frankly, I rarely see the point in dwelling on the past.
I guess you and your mother have that in common.
Huh. You might be right.
So, we're going to find out who your father was.
You would... help me?
Of course. Maybe Lane would have some ideas on where to start.
Actually, I had an idea myself. The Spindle mentioned a statue of my mother. It's clear the Enclave commemorated their champions. I can't shake this feeling my father is among them.
You think there's a statue of your father?
I know it sounds strange, but the handful of times that my mother spoke of him, she described him as this great hero. Since she was one herself, is it so crazy to think she might have meant that literally?
Maybe not. I can scope out the statues in Upper Denevron for a resemblance, if that's what you want.
Good. And thank you.
Aurea, I'm curious. Why the sudden interest in finding out more about your father?
He was trapped in the Enclave my entire life. This is the first chance I actually have to find out who he was.
Right. But I guess what I mean is, you really never tried to find out more from your mother.
I always had this sense that it wasn't something she could discuss. There was a heaviness in the air when his name came up. She was in love with him. And then she lost him in this cataclysmic event that no one could have predicted.
That must have been unimaginably painful.
Yes. She wasn't a tragic figure, though. She carried it well. You'd never know she was in pain. And truthfully, I had such a good life with my mother and my grandmother. It wasn't like I felt he was missing.
Until now.
Until we arrived here, yes. Something about this place just makes it clear how much I've lost because of the Surge.
Being here makes me wonder, if the Surge hadn't happened, would I have been forced to leave home to become a weaver?
Most certainly not. You would have been a valued member of society, not an outcast. Did you have a good relationship with your mother?
I love her, but we clashed a lot. She's afraid of magic, and weavers, and adventure, and leaving Calnhaven.
Basically, all the things even an Ash Peak Drake couldn't keep you from, let alone your own mother.
Pretty much.
My mother and I had our ups and downs throughout my life, too. As daughters get older, we understand our mothers better. She'll come around to the weaving, if that's what you're worried about. She loves you, after all.
She does. I know that much.
The Hearthsiders look more traumatized than a beast of burden after a hurricane.
What? Why would you say that?
I would think someone who grew up in the wake of war would recognize the signs. disorganized and unable to triage their own problems. They're overwhelmed. Suspicious of us despite our clear good intentions, suggesting paranoia. And while their leader is in deep denial of the very real crisis the Enclave is in, the others accept it. They've been stewing in turmoil for so long, it's become their new normal. And it's probably more comfortable for them than the prospect of change.
You're right. They do remind me of some veterans back in Carnarvon.
Saw it 1,000 times over while working in Udea. Aurea may not want to hear it, but these people are completely lost in their crisis.
I spoke to Aurea earlier. She certainly does want to give the Eye the benefit of the doubt. I'm not so sure it's warranted.
Aurea has a case of hero worship when it comes to the Enclave. She can be blinded by it sometimes.
Huh.
It's not to say great things didn't happen here. But at the end of the day, the Hearthsiders aren't gods. They're fallible. Just like us. Bryn, I'm glad you're here. I need to talk to you.
What's going on? You look pretty tired.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just... about those 90 Drake scales. I know Aurea said we don't need them, but she just doesn't understand. It's dangerous out here, you know? Especially now that these Surgeborn are loose. We need to be prepared for anything. It's just gnawing in the back of my head. Do you think you could do it?
You haven't told me why we need them, or better yet, why we need 90.
We want the best gear and weapons, don't we?
So Sola asked for these?
Not exactly. They have other uses too.
Seriously, when's the last time you slept?
Kashar don't need as much sleep as Ashar or Casil.
But you need some sleep.
It's been a while. Maybe 10 days. Or a week. I'm fine.
I'm guessing Aurea doesn't know you want me to go Drake hunting. Do you really think it's a good idea for us to go behind her back?
It looks bad, but she just doesn't see what I'm seeing.
To be honest, I'm not sure I see it either.
Please, just trust me.
Kaz, you need to tell me what's really going on here. I want to help, but the Drake scales? The Weaver Band is okay. More than okay. We're in the best shape we've been in since we entered the Enclave, now that we've made contact with the Hearthsiders. Besides, the caravan is looking pretty full. It's not making sense.
You think I'm insane?
No, of course not.
Era's breath. I shouldn't have brought this up. But you just don't understand. Everyone could die if I don't... It would be my fault.
Whatever this is, please just tell me what's going on.
No. I shouldn't have burdened you. Sorry, just go.
But Kaz...
I can't talk about this anymore.
Casmin is not okay. And I don't think bringing her more stuff is the answer. I'd better talk to Aurea. Kaz, you know you can talk to us about what's going on, right?
Nothing's going on. I'm fine, I promise.
You don't seem fine, though.
It's just... no one seems to understand how important the Ashpeak Drake skills are, and bad things are going to happen if we don't... You know what? I just can't talk about this right now. I'm sorry.
Hey, Aurea. About Casmin.
I know. I'm worried too. So is the rest of the band. Let's talk at the archive, privately. I'll join you and Lane in a moment.
All right.
It might sound callous, but I'm a little disappointed in the Hearthsiders.
They're in worse shape than any of us expected.
They've done so little to repair the wonders that surround them. How can a society once renowned for its genius become so far removed from their own innovations? It makes me question if they were ever as great as we all believe they were, or if it was just...
Some myth to keep Weavers going after the surge.
Exactly. Something for us to believe in, whether or not it was true.
I've honestly been having the same thoughts myself. What we've seen here, it's not exactly living up to the stories my father told me each night.
Not just bedtime stories, but books, academic papers, first-hand accounts. It's all being thrown into question. I'm just not sure what to think anymore. And then, Sev and I realized we might be able to repurpose the carapace for more than just loom gates.
Uh-huh.
Purely theoretical right now, but I'm contemplating tangle-resistant gear, or even a protective layer around the caravan.
Dom, I'm a little busy trying to look over these Tarmakine schematics again. Do you mind coming back later?
Oh, okay. You're right. We can discuss theoretical magic anytime. I'll leave you to your work.
Oh. Hey, Bryn.
Everything all right? Things between you and Dom seem off lately.
Yeah, a bit. I'm not sure he understands what my work on the Tarmakine smithing techniques means to me.
Have you told him how you're feeling?
It feels like he's so wrapped up in his own discoveries that he's not hearing me.
He is easily distracted, but maybe you should try again. If there's one thing I know about Dom, it's that he loves you. He must care about your feelings.
Then why isn't he asking about them? Sorry, this isn't on you. I'm just frustrated. I need to do more than just tell him what Tarmakine means to me.
How so?
I need to show him. By investigating Tarmakine practices, maybe I can make some headway on restoring these techniques. Then he'll understand.
Hey, I'm always down to investigate lost knowledge, especially in the name of love.
You'll help me?
Of course.
Amazing. I'll ask the Axel if she knows anything about Tarmakine smithing in the Enclave.
Great idea. I'll meet you at Cassidon's Hold. So, what were you speaking to the Eye about?
Nothing. I don't want to talk about it.
I didn't mean to pry. I just wanted to make sure you're okay.
You want to know if I'm okay?
Yes?
Then how come no one is at all concerned with the fact we can't leave? There are things I should get back to in Tarza, and it's increasingly clear no one has any idea when I will, if ever. So no, I'm not okay.
I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were feeling this way. You're right.
I am?
The truth is, we don't know how or when we're getting out of here. But if you want to leave, we should have made that more of a priority. Or at least made you feel more heard. So we'll work on it. Promise.
Really? What's the catch?
No catch. Apprentice or full-time weaver, what's important to you is important to all of us.
I don't know what to say. But thanks.
That wasn't exactly the warmest welcome. I'm guessing the Enclave Council isn't your biggest fan right now.
What's not to like? So I let some nasty creatures loose. There's no bad impression my charms can't overcome.
And if they fail you now, there's a first for everything.
Then I'll roundhouse kick those Surgeborn back to the Underworks.
Whatever the Council thinks of you, I'm glad you're trying to help them. I think they could really use it.
Yeah. They don't seem to be in great shape.
Nothing our daring point can't fix.
Bryn, I have to say, I'm a little concerned about you.
Me? Why's that?
I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into with the Enclave Council. You're not just helping them, you're diving headfirst into their political affairs.
Lane, if I can fight an Archon 10 times my size, I can handle a little bureaucracy.
That's exactly my point. I was raised in the midst of political schemes and intrigue. There's always something unsaid or underhanded at play beneath the surface. Just be careful. That's all.
You won't find Oria's father running amid statues, you know.
What do you mean?
You know what's most likely to get in the way of tracking down one's lineage? Family. A scholar wants to trace a family line to find connections between key historical figures? No problem. A living relative wants to find their great-grandfather using some oh-so-precious family heirloom? What a headache.
Why?
A scholar is objective. They have no emotional attachment to the family line, no sense of self wrapped up in the results of their study.
And you're saying Oria does?
I'm saying she needs to expand her search beyond Weaver heroes. She's not searching for family there, she's seeking identity. And without objectivity, her search will turn up nothing.
Oria did jump into this with preconceived ideas about who her father is. I can see how that might cause problems.
It most certainly will if she doesn't come around to the idea that her father may not live up to her expectations.
I'll keep that in mind.
Food for thought, at least. One of the greatest tragedies of the Surge is the loss of stories. The Enclave might not be that old, but with so many dead to the Surgeborn, their memories most certainly died with them.
I can understand that.
Oh?
My parents' generation tend to stay quiet around the fire. Whatever stories Khanhanders had were beaten out of us by public lashings and prison camps. And we haven't had time since independence to start telling new ones.
Ah, yes. Bryn of Carnhaven. I almost forgot.
Wait, like what Dom called me? You were listening?
I always am. Habit-born of a Udean upbringing, I suppose. But, yes. I suppose the similarities are there, aren't they? A population whittled down by catastrophe. Stories lost. Did you ever have the urge to press a little harder? To try and learn just one or two stories? Even if it was painful for the person telling them?
I would have liked to. It was hard, though. I learned more about our folklore through silence than through words. I was born after the fighting ended, but we still hadn't fully rebuilt by the time I left home. I found a couple of skeletons as a kid, out on the steppe. People who'd died fighting the wall, exposed by the wind and the rain. There's a story behind those bones that will never be told.
I can only imagine how hard it must be to adapt to the new normal of no longer being under an empire's yoke. Even more so when you fought so hard to gain that independence. If we ever travel back to Calnhaven, I'll try and record some stories, with your help, if you'd like. Sorry, is that too presumptuous of me?
No, of course not. You never know where the Weaver life might take us.
It's a date, then. I took a break from work earlier to watch you on the scry. The way you take down those giant beasts, it's breathtaking. Poetry in motion, even. If you weren't already journaling your exploits, well, I'd be dedicating page upon page to them.
I don't get to see myself from the outside very often.
Alas, if only I were an accomplished artist.
Too bad. I want to see what I look like when I'm exploring places that haven't been seen for decades.
Even without pictorial aids, you look brave, confident, powerful, ready for anything.
You had those adjectives ready to roll. Been watching me a lot?
Yes, it's what naturally came to mind, promise. Words are more my specialty, as I said. So, we've spoken about stories, the kinds that are lost to time or war. But what about those stories that are yet to be written? What is the story of Bryn, slayer of mighty beasts, point of Oria Silverbeak's legendary weaver band?
I suppose that's me in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yes, but what else? I can't help but wonder whether there will be anyone else who's indelibly part of your story.
I'd need to have someone around to champion my exploits. Can't just hand out copies of my journal, can I?
Goodness, if only there was someone around who could shout your praises from the rooftops.
You never know. They could be right around the corner.
We shall have to keep an eye out.
It's safe to say Casmin hasn't been acting like herself. She's always been tightly wound, but this is something else.
Bryn, she seems more open with you than most. Can you describe in detail what's abnormal about her behavior?
She's begging me for more supplies, even though the caravan is chock full.
Not that we could tell, because she's covered it up.
More than that, she just seems distressed. She's always talking about worst-case scenarios, and lately it's like she's convinced we're all going to die.
I have heard rumors of abnormal behavior developing in Kashar that could be linked to this.
What kind of rumors?
In polytheistic beliefs that are pervasive in the southern part of the Maida, there is an affliction known as Ira's Plague. The sufferer is haunted by twisted visions of death and pain. The goddess of justice, Ira, won't allow the sufferer inner peace until they repent through scrupulosity.
Scrupulosity? What is that exactly?
Oh, my apologies. I forget most people don't follow UD in eschatological study. Scrupulosity can be best described as a series of repetitive acts that one is compelled to do. For example, if Casmin is plagued by relentless images of our band dying from exposure,
she might send our point out over and over again to retrieve supplies.
Yes, in order to dispel the horrific visions.
Are you seriously suggesting Casmin is... what? Possessed?
Of course not. I'm confident that this is merely a stigmatized phenomenon that could not be explained through facts or science. So the populace explained it through religious folly instead.
Any ideas what facts could explain it?
Not yet.
I didn't realize Casmin was spiritual. Is she really trying to hide these visions from us?
Though not devout herself, Casmin grew up with a strict Ashar mother. You're right, she did.
It's possible Casmin's affliction was a point of shame or contention between them. Perhaps she fears rejection if she shares her experience with us.
Kashar, what does Era's plague have to do with them?
While most see Kashar as a celebrated merging of the two cultures, some fringe sects disagree. They believe the wider lineage simply leads to more ancestral sin that must be atoned. And thus, only Kashar can be afflicted.
Really? Where do you land?
The concept of impure lineage is clearly hogwash. But I suspect the affliction could somehow correlate to the Kashar's unique physiology.
All right. Casmin is suffering. We need to do something about it.
And preemptively? No exorcisms?
As I said, this is likely nothing more than a condition that has been stigmatized by religion. A scientific explanation must exist, and thankfully, we are in the heart of progressive thinking.
You think the Enclave could have done research on this?
Makes sense. Where should I start looking?
The steps in the upper city is where I'd start. Between the main building of the spire and the atrium used to stand a school for alchemists. From your explorations, the surge hit that area pretty hard, but some of the building may still be standing.
Great. What am I looking for?
Maybe the name of someone who suffered like Casmin, or a healer who treated the condition. If you find someone like that, you'll want to search the areas of the city where they spent time. Era's plague is wildly misunderstood across the Maida. If we could find a treatment, it could help more than Casmin.
You're right. I'll start with the steps, then expand my search. Making yourself at home?
Yes. I've always wanted my own ruined fountain. I don't want to presume, but being here is a nice break from all the politics.
And the eye is okay with that?
I convinced him I would be keeping an eye on you. Frankly, I think he's just glad to be rid of me. I ask the kind of questions that make him uncomfortable. You know, tough ones like, how? And why exactly?
Lucky for you, Aurea loves when people ask those questions. Welcome to the camp, Eric. We're glad to have you, and your insight on the Hearthsiders.
You still call us that?
Yeah, but it's more bitter these days. Surge and all. Maybe together we can fix that.
Let's.
How are you settling in, Eric? Things going well?
Good. Yeah, they're fine.
Just good?
No, not really. Something's going on at the hold, and it's making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The Eye publicly scorched you for opening up Asylum, and yet I've heard him telling the Spindle that this could be a good thing. Meanwhile, the runners are stretched paper thin keeping supplies moving. Which, of course, leaves my people no time to deal with actual threats.
Sounds like you could use some help. What's the problem?
Really? Oh, dancing winds, where to start? No, wait, I know. The Spitfires. A particularly aggressive group seems set on spreading through Denevron. In particular, they're building nests in some areas I was hoping to use as training grounds, but we had to pull out due to the risk.
Would the areas be safe if I took care of the nests?
Yes, though the nests are very durable. They will turn brittle if you get them cold enough.
Consider it done. Anything else?
Maybe an odd request. Could you ask Aurea if I could power the scry while you're tackling them?
Why not ask her yourself?
I feel like I have a lot to learn from Aurea and how she works with you. And it's strangely intimidating to admit that to her directly.
She is a force of nature. I get it. I'll ask.
Thanks again for offering to talk to Aurea for me. It's genuinely exciting to learn from someone new for once. Our community's pretty insular.
Hi, Aurea. I am here on behalf of Arakim.
That's weirdly formal. Everything all right?
He finds you intimidating. Personally, I don't see it, but I thought I'd be extra polite for his sake.
He does. Good. What does he want?
He's wondering if he could power the scry while I run an errand for him. He's hoping you'll give him tips.
Happily. But feel free to tell him I was a bit scary, to keep him on his toes. Kaz, what's going on with the caravan?
What are you talking about?
You've got the shutters closed, even though it's practically bursting with supplies.
Just doing some reorganizing.
Good news. It was tough going, but I managed to convince Madame Silverbeak to take you under her wing.
Madame Silverbeak. Wins. I'll wear my good socks. I've coordinated lots of operations from Cassidy's hold, but I never had much formal training. More self-taught. A chance to learn from someone with decades of experience is an incredible opportunity. I'll be there with you then, when you get close to the nests. They're in the Bastion's yard and Envoy's Landing in Upper Denevron.
Aurea thinks her father could have a statue in the Enclave just like her mother. So, I'm looking for a male Oberon that fits our timeline. As impressive as Aurea's lineage may be, we're 200 years off the timeline for Arden to be her father. Not to mention the lack of feathers. Victoria's father is unlikely to be a Casil woman. Besides, when it comes to nurturing parental figures, Ramenos's shrewd-eyed politics isn't what comes to mind.
These the embassies? Envoy's Landing, yes. It wasn't by chance that visiting dignitaries had to walk across the verdant gardens to meet their Enclave counterparts at the Spire. Upper Devron was designed to impress.
getting close now. Watch the flames. You'll need to freeze the hives. They're spongy and resistant to damage unless you can make them brittle.
That's more like it. Work with the scry.
warrior. This must be the statue of your mother that the Spindle mentioned.
One of the greatest enchantresses of her time.
That's a lot to live up to. Not much of this building left, but looks like it's my lucky day. This tome's titled Disordered Thinking and Mental Anguish. Looks thick. An insert says, a herbalist in the market found success treating a variety of patients suffering from these types of afflictions. Better search the market next.
Collapsed tunnel. Judging from the size, it could have been a route for Archons.
That should be the last of them. Appreciate the chance to test run your scry.
Things still good with our Spitfire problem?
All handled. You did great out there. But now we have another problem. Madame Silverbeak. Seriously? I said it while you were out there, and the look she gave me.
Oh no, you didn't!
Oh, yeah, I did. And I shall never again. But well played, Miss Bryn. But it was quite the experience. Your scry is not at all what I'm used to. It's better, more vibrant. Anyway, sincerely, thank you for your help. If I need more, I'll know to just ask this time. Hey, Bryn. Sorry, was lost in thought. It's this scry thing. It's been bothering me.
You said it felt different from the ones you're used to.
Yours was much more intense than any we have. And I need to know why. Have we overused them? I don't think so. I mean, yours is at least as old and clearly has seen good service.
That does seem strange.
Yeah, I went digging through everything I could find about the scries. I'm sure the Eye has records he won't share with me. Or anyone, really. But I still found a lead.
A sudden burst of bureaucratic insight.
Yes, I suppose. Shipping records for scries. There were some set to go out right around the surge.
Exports? To bands like ours?
Probably. Well, that's the problem, though. There's a lot of very specific shorthand on these manifests I just don't understand.
We should talk to Casmin. She lives and breathes shipping logistics.
I was hoping you'd suggest that. I was considering asking her myself, but...
She's a little intimidating?
No, that's Aurea. Casmin just seems busy. Always busy. And I don't want to overstep here with your crew.
We can talk to her together.
When's the last time anyone saw her sleep?
It's been weeks.
Is that normal for a Kashar?
No.
Have you noticed the struggle in our new friend?
Arik, you mean?
Yes. Every part of him yearns to be serious, mature, maybe a little dangerous. But show him something new, like a properly maintained scry, and it all falls away.
Revealing...
An excited, intelligent young man who craves novelty.
Think that's why he hangs around the camp so often?
No, I know that's why. He knows he can't go back to it, but misses what you do. I wrestle with it too. I like being your watcher, but if someone handed me a potion to move back in time or be young again, well, let's say I'd give it some serious consideration. Either way, he's got a deft hand with the scry. I'll give him some pointers, but he's a natural.
The man it belonged to details all his anxieties and intrusive visions. I wonder if Casmin could relate to him. It's hard to think about her experiencing all this alone. He mentions that he also saw her at the Hallowed High Rise. I should check the temple for more information. afflictions. I wonder if it might document something similar to Era's plague. If Casmin really believes she's been cursed or afflicted, no wonder she's trying to keep it to herself.
Exactly as I theorized. Era's plague is little more than a stigmatized condition with a perfectly rational explanation.
Which is?
A perfect storm of family traits and lifestyle choices, exaggerated by circumstance. Diet, athletics, and sleep all factor in.
Casmin hasn't been sleeping much.
Might be worth presenting this research to her to see if the rest resonates.
Good idea.
Oria and I will join you when you're ready.
Casmin, we need to talk.
Could it wait? I'm in the middle of touch counting the armory.
No, it can't.
We've been worried about you.
I'm fine. Seriously, don't worry about me.
No one has seen you sleep in days. You're clearly hiding 2 bands worth of supplies behind the caravan shutters. And half the time you're talking a league a minute about catastrophes that are never going to happen. We can't let you keep going like this.
No. Maybe I've been a little off lately, but I'm fine, seriously. I'm just trying to keep our Weaver band prepared in case... I just want us all to be safe.
We are safe.
Kaz, I've been doing research on a condition you might know as Era's plague.
I'm not possessed.
We know. The Enclave's studies on Ira's plague concluded that it's not a religious affliction, but a disorder of the mind. The sufferer experiences a cycle of relentless, disturbing thoughts and all manner of compulsions to fix them, including hoarding. Though it may be passed on through families, this condition is often exacerbated by a lack of sleep.
Bryn found a diary belonging to a Cassil man in Denevron who suffered from this. I think you should read it. He describes the intrusive visions that began after the birth of his son. Horrible fears he would drop his baby that he was so ashamed of, he couldn't share them with anyone.
That's awful.
It reached a point where he couldn't hold his own child, until he sought help.
So, you're saying, if I have Ira's plague, there's a cure?
We found evidence of a treatment, yes. We'd need to talk to someone at Cassidin's Hold to know more.
But we didn't want to speak to someone outside the Weaver Band on your behalf without talking to you first.
I don't know.
Casmin, I can only imagine what it's like in your mind right now. It must be pretty scary and painful. And I know it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you deserve to feel better.
I'm not sure I do.
I get it. Sometimes it's hard to believe you deserve better. But if you can't do this for yourself, do it for someone else.
She's right. It's hard for all of us to see you suffering like this. We care about you, and we just want you to be okay.
Fine. You can talk to the Weavers in Cassidin's Hold. I can't promise. I'm still not sure about all of this.
We'll go one step at a time. Isla, I was wondering if you might be able to help my friend.
Oh, what seems to be the problem?
I was wondering if you've heard of an affliction known as Ira's plague.
A damaging misnomer, but yes.
It certainly seems like the Enclave had a better understanding of it than the rest of the Maida does. I believe our quartermaster is suffering from it. She's a Kashar like you.
Ah, yes. The condition isn't unique to Kashar, but it's believed we experience it in greater severity due to our unique sleep cycles. I've heard of Ram, Obrun, Ashar, and Cassil alike who've experienced it. The first line of treatment is sleep. Unfortunately, that's difficult for Kashar. Thankfully, a sleeping balm should go a long way to help her. But it's not enough on its own.
Is there a more accurate name for this affliction?
Unfortunately, no. The research done on disorders of the mind is limited, even here. And I suppose academics are hesitant to rename conditions until they've become better understood.
Changing the name would just confuse matters, especially after the surge.
Then again, using a name that implies an individual has been cursed by a goddess of justice doesn't exactly foster empathy for its sufferers.
If this won't cure Casmin, what else will we need to do to help her?
It's what she needs to do for herself, sadly. There is no cure for Ira's plague, only treatment and management of the condition. Sleep will put her on the right track, but she needs to eat properly and actively fight the compulsions that stem from her visions.
She has a long road ahead of her.
She does. But she's not walking it alone. She's lucky to have friends like you.
Have you experienced Ira's plague yourself?
Not personally, no. But when I was born, my mother sought out the sleeping balm recipe in case I ever needed it, being Kashar. Great foresight on her part.
You've never spoken of your mother before?
She died before I was even a year old. And my father doesn't like to speak of her.
How do I get hold of a sleeping balm?
Well, I can make one for you here if you bring me the ingredients. You'll need emerald lucin, a gemstone famed for its ability to radiate peace, and chill feather weave for its cooling properties. In addition to this, you'll need oil membrane for the formula, and of course, red cotton, because it filters the light so that the eyes find deeper rest.
I'll bring you those right away.
Bryn, you brought your talented smith. To what do I owe the pleasure?
I was wondering if you might have any information on Tarmakine's smithing practices within the Enclave.
I'm not well versed in Tarmakind myself, but I recall one smith who hoped to make the techniques more widespread prior to the surge. You could try searching the guild district in Hyden Everon for a registry.
Sola is actually hoping to restore the lost art herself. Anything else I can look for that might help her?
The Smithing Guild also had an extensive library. You might find a tome on Tarmakind that could be useful while you're there.
Thank you so much.
I admire your ambition. What you're hoping to achieve is no small feat.
If anyone can do it, it's Sola.
I don't know about that.
I can believe it. Good luck in your endeavors.
What's your history here? Have you been the Axel for a long time?
Why do you care?
You seem like someone who deliberately underplays her hand. I'd hate to play a game of Panjal against you.
All right. I'll take that as a compliment. I was elected to this seat 8 years ago. I've done a good enough job to be re-elected.
What made you decide to run for leadership?
My predecessor was incompetent and took bribes. The guild members tolerated it for a time, but eventually enough was enough. The Eye never seemed to have a problem with it, though.
Do you think he's taking bribes?
You really aren't afraid of asking dangerous questions, are you? I personally haven't seen any evidence of his corruption. He believes in his own judgment too much to accept a bribe. It's easier to bribe the lower-level guild members anyway.
Isn't that a bad thing?
The wheels of society must needs be greased. If they do any more than skim a little off the top, I'll come down hard on them. And that's why I've managed to keep my job. Well, part of why, anyway.
How's your working relationship with the Eye? Is he your superior?
He would like to think so. His seat casts the final vote when the council cannot make a decision.
But his seat has more power than that.
Khan Stanield wields power beyond the traditional bounds of the Eye's seat, yes. But he is our savior. so surely he must know better than any of us. Which is to say, he is technically the highest ranked official in the Enclave. But he hasn't faced an election in decades. In contrast, I have, let's call it, popular support.
So, what does an Axel do all day?
It varies. Some of my predecessors have been very hands-on, as befits a representative of the physical trades. That's not my strong suit, though, so I end up with my beak buried in paperwork. Maintaining supply lines, as it turns out, is considered extremely helpful.
That all makes sense? Thanks for taking a moment to talk. The Guild District. I should look for tomes on the Tarmakine smithing style, and a registry of guild members here. Aha. Tarmakine Smithing. A compendium on vented metalwork. Sola will love this. This appears to be a registry of smiths. It's dated prior to the retreat to Cassidan's Hold. Smith. Xavier Nibrail. Looks like a workshop in the Ironwork.
resonance from one of these massive arcs.
Enough to dispel her nerves.
Only one way to find out. Xavier's workshop should be another set of schematics. This is sure to put a smile on Solar's face. Sturdy. Not made for traveling like Solar's. Xavier's diary. From a quick skim, it doesn't look like he was a particularly happy man.
The discoveries we can glean from your findings are incredible, Bryn. This schematic is much more complicated than the previous one, though. And I'm starting to realize why Tarmakind is a lost art.
What do you mean?
Xavier used a traditional forge because he needed to reach much higher temperatures to work the signature Tarmakind vents. Unfortunately, my forge is built for transport. It's unable to sustain those higher temperatures.
Could we improve it?
Dom had that idea of a set of enchanted hammers. They, combined with the forge, might be enough heat.
He'll be glad to hear it.
Could you maybe get him to enchant them on my behalf?
Why? I'm sure he'd be thrilled to help you.
I know. We're just not on the same page right now. I'd rather be further in my investigation before I speak to him. Besides, he mentioned he'd need some cinder linen for the enchantment, and I was thinking you could scavenge some for us.
All right. This is a little strange, but I guess I can talk to him for you.
Thanks.
Hey, Dom. Sola was wondering if you could enchant a set of hammers after all. She's finally ready to use them.
Of course, but why isn't she asking me to do it herself?
She's been a bit busy with the Tarmakine stuff she's working on.
Right. I'm happy to enchant the hammers. I'll need cinder linen to do it, though. Do you have any on you?
As a matter of fact, I do. Here.
Perfect. I've still got some of the byproduct from your drake harvest as well. I'll enchant them right away. Do you think I should be the one to bring them to Sola? Or would she prefer that you do it?
Why don't you bring them? This Tarmakine project is really important to her, and I think it would mean a lot if you helped out.
You're right. She's the love of my life, after all. I'm happy to help. But maybe you could join me? After all, you're the one she's been entrusting the details of her work to. Maybe she'd rather you be there.
I could come, if you really think that's best, but it kind of seems like the two of you should...
Great, it's settled. We'll both go.
Yeah. Okay.
This isn't working. The forge isn't hot enough.
I've stoked the forge before.
No, this work is somewhat more precise. It's not all bad news. I can forge a set of Tarmakine arms now. I'll give you the design. But the remaining pieces are too large to make without reaching the temperatures that Xavier was able to at his forge.
Sola? It's all right. We can figure this out. Maybe we need something stronger than cinder linen to augment the hammers.
No, enchanting isn't the solution. Sev and I need to head into Denevron to get Xavier's forge. It's built for this.
And it's exceptionally heavy. You and Sev are strong, but do you really think you'll be able to get it back here?
We have to try.
My love, I know this is important to you, but do you think Xavier's forge is a long-term solution? The caravan won't be able to carry it. You'll need to leave it behind when we start traveling again.
I don't want to keep traveling. I want to settle down. I want to stay in one place. I want a home.
But we're weavers. Our home is the open road. Traveling is what we do.
It doesn't have to be.
Staying in one place, it's not the life we decided on for ourselves.
It's not the life I thought I could have. But here, in the Enclave, it's possible. We could be weavers and stay. You could enchant, I could teach smithing. I could unravel the Tarmakine techniques and pass them on to a new generation.
You've clearly spent a great deal of time thinking this through. Without me. It's not what I planned for myself, though. Or even a life I want, for that matter.
But we're married. If we don't want the same life, where does that leave us?
I don't know.
Maybe I should give you two some privacy to talk this out.
It's fine, Bryn. Clearly, Sola would rather speak to you about her hopes and dreams than me. Maybe it's best if we take some time apart. I'll go.
Fine.
Sola, are you...
I don't even know what just happened. I can't believe he just... left.
He was caught off guard. It will be okay, I promise.
I don't know anymore. If that doesn't keep you safe, I don't know what will.
You're seriously telling me Harnhaven is now completely independent from Sansa?
Bryn's parents fought in the war.
Wow. I guess it makes sense that our history books are a little out of date, but I never imagined so much could change since the Surge.
From what we've gathered, quite a lot has happened inside the Vale as well, has it not?
Yes, that's true, but I don't know how to describe it. The Archon's malfunctioning, the Surgeborn appearing, the retreat to Cassidon's Hold. They're all phases of this one crisis. So even when catastrophe strikes, life here still feels stagnant.
How you doing, Solar? That discussion with Dom was a little rough.
I'm frustrated and hurt. I feel like I don't ask for much, and when I finally do, he acts mystified.
He absolutely could have handled that better. But I think he was genuinely caught off guard.
How is that possible? I feel like I've been trying to tell him for ages. Or hint at it, at least.
Maybe that was the first time he really understood, though.
Maybe. I just need some time. And space.
I don't know if space is the best.
I can't have that conversation again right now. Especially if you won't consider... Never mind.
Hey, Kaz. Arakim has a question.
Is that why you've been lurking around here? Bad habit, you.
Yes. I need some help puzzling out shipping manifests from before the Surge.
Scries, secured export, dates. You think some scries never made it past the Vale?
Doesn't it usually take some time to figure that kind of thing out?
Yes, but I'm a genius. This is what I do, Bryn. So, we should run these down. The records here aren't complete, though. They don't confirm the shipment.
Any idea how we do that?
This is where Bryn does what she does. Off the top of my head, there's 3 places we should look. Drover's Gate in the lower city is obvious. Logs will be there. Also, I imagine the Bastion would track export of any and all scries, military applications. And we should canvass the Hearthsiders. Maybe someone still alive who worked the caravans. I'd ask the Axel. She'd know who to ask. And we're not welcome in the general populace at Cassidon's.
We have that in common. Impressive.
Happy to help.
Eden Palm. I was never a big believer in calling gemstones myself, but there must be something to it if the Enclave weavers use them in their alchemic practices. Here's everything you asked for.
Just a moment, and I'll prepare the balm. Here you go. And I've written down the recipe for Lane, in case you run out.
Thank you so much.
Have your quartermaster rub a little of the balm on her forehead, temples, and wrists before she goes to sleep. She'll be out in no time.
I hope she's willing to try this.
All you can do is be there. The rest is up to her.
You're right. I'd better get back to camp.
I hope your friend feels better soon.
A resonance. Freshly pulled from an ark's pattern, as requested.
By the flames! You can't be serious! This is incredible!
You know, great archons weren't built with patterns. They formed. This will propel my research faster than...
What is this about?
Nothing.
Is that so? Then why is this rogue point harvesting archons for you?
Khan Stanild. Isla is the Spindle. Patterns are directly tied to her domain when you hear what she hopes to achieve with the arcs.
I'm well aware of my daughter's ambitions, newcomer, and I have given express orders that she is not to pursue them.
Daughter?
The reason you didn't want me studying active arcs was because it was too dangerous to harvest one. But Bryn offered to do it for me. None of our people were put at risk.
The reason I didn't want you researching arcs is because I ordered you not to. Not as your father, but as the leader of the Enclave. This insolence and disrespect will not be tolerated. You will drop this obsession at once, Isla. For good.
Hey, are you?
I can't be seen speaking to you about this subject anymore. I'm sorry,
but...
I need to get back to work. Goodbye. I really can't discuss the arcs with you. Not here.
Don't worry. I understand. I just didn't realize that Khan Stanild is your father.
Admittedly, I wasn't the most forthcoming about that.
Why hide the fact that the Eye is your father?
No. Everyone knows. That's kind of the problem. My father has been in power a long time. And obviously, being his daughter has come with its privileges. But I can't ignore the whispers that I haven't truly earned my role. And at times, I worry they're right.
So, when you had the opportunity to work with us on your own terms...
I took it. I'm sorry. This probably looks bad.
Are you all right after that argument?
He's been on edge lately.
Since our band arrived.
That didn't help, but our relationship hasn't been great since I became the Spindle. At first, he was thrilled when I was elected, but you're just not seeing him at his best right now. Please, don't judge him too harshly.
I'll try not to. But you didn't answer my question. Are you all right?
I'm fine.
I know we're not supposed to talk about the A word, but they're your passion. Why is your father so against you pursuing your research?
He says they're dangerous.
Right. But so are a lot of things in the Enclave.
I never knew my mother. I was born just before the retreat to Cassidon's Hold. When my research touched a nerve, he finally told me that she had died in an arc attack on the upper city. He wants me to steer clear of them, but he just doesn't see their potential. Yet.
You said he's not at his best. What does a good day look like for him?
I know it's hard to see it, but he is an amazing father. My childhood was wonderful. Growing up in Cassidon's Hold wasn't easy, but he made it fun. No matter how intense his job became, he made time for me. Playing dress-up, reading to me before bed, or, as I got older, teaching me the basics of weaving and enchanting. He was my best friend and confidant. I could always tell him anything.
Do you still tell him everything, even now?
A lot has changed. But I have to believe he's still the same father I grew up with. That's comforting. For what it's worth, I did enjoy working with you. But that's in the past. I should get back to my duties.
I have a strange request.
And I have very little time. How is our little project coming?
I'm working on it.
Then let's prioritize that. I have people to arm.
Bryn?
Hi, Zola. Everything okay?
Oh, yes. Welcome back. It's good to see you safe. Could we talk when you have a moment?
Of course.
Sounds like you've got yourself entangled in a family drama.
Without realizing it, yes.
I feel for Isla. Growing up with a successful parent can be difficult, even in the best of circumstances. And I certainly had the best of circumstances with my mother. Still, it was a lot to live up to.
I'm trying to help her. however I can.
Careful. No one knows the extent of a family's affairs except those inside it. You might be stumbling into something bigger than you realize.
We all wanted to come together to support you, Casmin, however we can. Do you think you're ready to talk about what's going on?
I guess I have been feeling not so great lately. It's hard. I don't know how to tell you what's going on in my mind. Or if I even should.
We're not here to judge. We're here to listen.
You can tell us anything.
It started a while after we came through the Veil. Not right away. You all know me. I'm a rock in a crisis. But the aftermath... It's hard for me to come down. Actually, I crashed to pieces in it. I should be stronger, but...
You are strong, Kaz. Falling apart sometimes doesn't change that.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it these days. After the Surgeborn escaped, I just started getting these... thoughts. Visions. So vivid, they feel like premonitions. Our campsite, being razed to the ground in the night. Scrambling to find our gear under attack. Each of us being killed, one by one. And this voice, howling in my ear that it will all be my fault. Unless I do everything in my power to prepare us for it. I know that sounds crazy. But these visions and that voice, it's been getting louder. It keeps me awake all hours of the night. By dawn, everyone else is asleep, even Dam. I'm alone and exhausted. Counting supplies over and over and over. Unable to stop.
That must be lonely.
It is. Opening up to you about this is physically painful. Even while we're talking, that voice keeps going. In the spaces between my words, in every pause, it howls at me for being pathetic and incompetent. How come I'm the only one drowning inside this place? No matter what happens, all of you are able to keep doing your jobs. I mean, I'm the only freak going off the deep end. How stupid is that?
You're going through something awful, outside of your control. And until now, you've dealt with it alone. But your decision to be vulnerable and share your experiences with us, that's brave, not stupid.
I don't feel brave. I feel exhausted and sad. But I guess it's nice to hear.
What if we cleaned out the caravan for you while you go rest? Bryn will sit with you until you fall asleep.
I don't know. I don't think I can sleep right now.
I have something that will help. A sleeping balm from the Spindle.
Would you be open to trying it?
Maybe, but I'm afraid of what will happen if I go to sleep.
I won't let anything happen. I promise. Do you trust me?
I do. But I've made such a mess of the caravan. I can't let you guys be the ones to clean it up.
We've got this, Casmin. It's okay.
I'm all right. Thank you. This isn't working. I should go help with the caravan.
Shh. You need to sleep.
But what if Aurea throws away the grains Dan likes for breakfast? Or the sapling uses to rebind their books? Or...
She won't.
I can't just lie here. My skin is crawling. I feel like I might burst if I don't move.
How about we breathe together? Just try it with me.
Fine.
Hey, how you feeling?
I'm okay. I don't feel amazing. In fact, I feel pretty fragile, to be honest. But sleeping helped. Actually, everything you did helped. I don't want to pretend I'm feeling on top of the world right now, or like all my problems are solved. They're not. I know I've got a long road ahead of me, but finally saying out loud all the madness in my mind, and not being shunned or rejected for it. It's like all these awful visions lost some of their power over me.
Sounds like you should keep sharing with us then, so we can have every opportunity to accept you as you are.
Yeah. Why did you do all that for me?
You mean a lot to me, Casmin.
I do?
Yes, of course.
You mean a lot to me too.
I would do everything I just did and more for you, 1,000 times over.
I'm not sure I'm deserving of all that.
You are, Casmin.
Would you mind reminding me of that sometimes?
Every day, if you'd like.
I still can't believe no one shunned me at the mention of Ira's plague.
We're your friends. Why would we do that?
That is generally the reaction that people like me get across the Maida Basin. After all, Ira only stalks the wicked for penance.
Are you religious yourself?
I don't really know anymore. My mother was deeply religious, so I was raised to believe in the southern gods. I always accepted them as real, but lately, I've begun to question.
How so?
I mean, if what you've discovered is true, and the visions I have aren't penance from the goddess of justice, I've been hanging on to a lot of self-contempt for nothing.
That is a heavy burden to carry out of faith. Kaz, you do so much for other people. What could you possibly have to repent for?
I don't know. At all hours of the day, a voice is howling at me for never being good enough. Never hitting the mark. Now that I'm sleeping and eating, it is getting quieter. And every day, I practice fighting back. Telling myself I need to separate that voice from what's real. But a world in which I can ignore it completely feels far away.
If anyone can get there, it's you. You're tougher than anyone I know.
Save for you.
Have you ever told anyone else about these visions you're having?
Only one person. My mother.
I take it she wasn't very supportive?
I'll never forget how she looked at me. Like she was terrified. She told me to keep my impure visions to myself. And that if I behaved, eventually Ira would leave me alone.
How old were you?
5. I had just started school, and I was struggling with being away from my parents to attend classes. Images of them murdered by bandits while I was away hounded me during the 6 hours I spent outside the home. I swallowed my fears, though, hoping, as my mother told me, that if I was good and went to school, the visions would stop.
Even if Ira actually was out for you, I still wouldn't run. Anyone who cares about you knows you're not a threat.
Thank you, Bryn, for believing in me when I couldn't do it for myself.
Something on your mind, Kaz? You look lost in thought.
Oh, yeah. I guess it's just strange to think that Arachim, the Axle, and the Spindle were all born inside the Veil. For years after the Surge, it probably felt like the world was ending in here, and yet people were still bringing children into it.
Don't you think the same could be said of outside the Enclave after the Surge?
Maybe. But there's something about being trapped inside this crisis bubble and still choosing to bring someone else into it with you. Doesn't it seem almost selfish? You know what? No, I wasn't there. I shouldn't judge the Hearthsiders.
Maybe it's comforting. No matter what, birth comes with the spring. I think if someone really wants to have kids, they just make it work regardless of the circumstances.
I suppose. I just wonder if that's really what's best for a child.
I guess I've always been of the mindset that there's no perfect time to have kids. At some point, you just need to dive into it, if it's what you want.
Maybe. I'm not really one for diving. I've been thinking, maybe with the right person, I might change my mind about raising a family.
Really?
I would do anything for the people I care about. And what scares me about starting a family is the uncertainty of it.
But if you found someone you were certain about?
Someone I know would be a good partner, who would go to the ends of the earth for me and our kids.
Then you could do it.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, if I struggled with fearing for the band's safety, the idea of what my mind might do to me over my own child terrifies me.
The right person won't judge you for that. They'll be patient.
You think so?
I'm sure of it.
It's all just hypothetical anyway. Hey, you got a sec?
Of course.
Great. Mind if we speak somewhere more private?
Lead the way.
So, there's something I need to tell you.
What's on your mind?
Honestly, you are, and it kind of snuck up on me. I was caught up in my own world before you came along and pulled me out of it. At first, I saw you as a friend, then one day, something just shifted that I can't quite put into words. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think I'm falling for you.
I have feelings for you too.
You do? I thought maybe I'd scared you off with everything.
Kaz, I fight drakes and worms daily. You'll never scare me off. Besides, you're like the kindest, coolest girl I've ever met. How could I not fall for you?
That makes me really happy.
You surprised me too. In the best way.
Hopefully, we have a long road of surprising one another ahead of us.
We do.
Hey.
Hey. What's new?
Not a thing. Oh, except I don't know if you've heard, but I've got a smoking hot girlfriend now.
She sounds great. I have to admit, I'm a little jealous though.
Oh?
Turns out I have a thing for beautiful but kinda mean quartermasters.
That'll bite you in the arse every time. But seriously, I've wanted this for so long. I like you so much. But with all my issues, I couldn't imagine that you'd feel the same way about me. You sure you're not going to change your mind?
You're everything I could want. Going through rough patches in life doesn't change that. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared you might change your mind about me too. Everyone's afraid of rejection.
It's hard to imagine you being afraid of anything.
I'm not going anywhere. I promise.
Good. I wasn't planning on letting you go anyway.
Ah, Bryn. Hello. Yes, hello. That's right. That's the correct thing to say, isn't it? Is it?
Breathe, Tom.
Yes. Yes, of course. I just not feeling myself.
Solar?
Yes. Yes, flames, yes. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there.
I think maybe you two have some things to talk through. After a little time to cool off.
I had no idea she wants to stop traveling.
We all have to slow down sometime. We can't be on the road our whole life.
Well, yes, she had, I suppose, brought it up once or twice, but I assumed she meant later. Like our dotage.
At least it's out there now. Take a bit. Think about what she said. What she might want, and what you want. There's a way to make it work.
I shall. Yes, because I would very much like it to, as you say, work.